Welcome, everyone, and welcome to the very first internet talk show, the International Brotherhood of Pahlavans, which is a very unique and fast-growing Facebook group that I have started a while back, based on old-school traditional fitness, club swing, Indian and Persian club swinging, mace swinging, martial arts, kettlebell training, and pretty much old school fitness that deals with overall fitness, strengthening the tendons, the ligaments, endurance, the overall body fitness, as opposed to the one-dimensional targeted weights, machines, and things like that, and including old-time body weight calisthenics. Now, I have a very special guest and co-host that happens to be with me. He's from Southern California, I believe outside of Los Angeles, and his name is Rick Brown, fitness guru Rick Brown. How are you today, sir?
James, I'm doing great, and I'm delighted to be here.
I'm glad to have you. He is, of course, on the West Coast. He is one of our West Coast fitness correspondents or fitness investigators, and I'm glad to have him. Now, Rick, tell the people viewing about yourself.
I'm 54 years old, and I've been a kettlebell trainer for about 10 years. And about 6 years ago, I found out about the mace. Started doing that. I learned from Jake Shannon of scientificwrestling.com. I actually lived in the same city with him, Dana Point, California, beautiful city by the beach. So we were almost neighbors, and he showed me a lot about the mace. I went to one of his mace bell seminars, bought a mace bell from him, and took off from there. I love the kettlebells. The mace was something that was just fascinating to me. And then I got into the history of it, the people that used it. I found out about the Indian clubs, the Jori, the Gata, similar to the mace. And I just took off with it. I said, this was the kind of strength training that I wanted to be a part of. This was something that was not pretty boy training, standing in front of a mirror. It was hardcore, it was functional, and it gave me the type of strength I wanted.
Well, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, it is very deceivingly tough and brutal. People that I know that go to the gym and are on steroids and brag about, how much they're lifting and they're always competing and showing off and everything. They laugh at the clubs.
Yeah, they laugh until they try it.
They laugh at the Shenna board. They laugh, but you know what? They wouldn't. They attempted to try it once, and they couldn't even do one repetition. And as far as the Shenna goes, everything was brutal to them. They didn't even want to be bothered. And I'm talking about people in professional wrestling that have attempted it, and they shut up. The mocking ends, the ridicule ends, and they just say, incredible. We had no idea. They look at a piece of... Go ahead.
I've been training people as a personal trainer for 10 years, and I train outdoors in beautiful Southern California. I have my equipment set up, and passers-by come by all the time, and they stop, and they look, and they question, and they ridicule. And I tell them, we'll gladly take your advice, because they'll always say something like, you know what you should have him do? And I'll say, wait a minute, this gentleman is paying me for my time and my expertise, and I'm sure you're an expert, sir. If you could just lift this once, we'll listen to you. And they'll try something with a 24-kilogram kettlebell, which isn't heavy at all. And they can't believe how heavy it is. A 20-pound club demoralizes them. A 22-pound mace, they don't even attempt.
So while you're training a client, people have the nerve to stop by and try to blow you out of the water, so to speak, and mock when you're with a client?
Well, that's happened a lot when I first got started. I trained people in certain locations, and I'm pretty well known there, and they leave me alone now. But there, believe me, have been times when I've invited people to follow me for 60 seconds if you can. And oh, by the way, I'm probably as old as your father. But just follow me for 60 seconds, and we'll listen to you if you can talk when you're done with this.
Well, I imagine the beach is a great place to train with kettlebells. You don't have to worry about dropping them, that's for sure. But
I live actually about 10 miles in from the beach, and in front of the condo where I live, I've got 300 yards of grass. And if you go to my website, most of the films have been filmed there. It's a beautiful location. It's almost, there's palm trees in the background. Some of those show up on the films. My website is www.libertystrengthtraining, all one word.com.
okay.
And on the media page, you can see films of me training clients right in front of my house.
Well, I know with Richard Army McGuire, he's got those palm trees in the background too. That little zirconium, that I like to call it, with the lockers on the right and the foliage on the left. And
yeah, that's on the side of his house. He lives about 45, 50 minutes away. He's in Redondo Beach, and I've been to his place, and he is the real deal.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. The knowledge that man has and his credentials, and he's very humble and modest. He does not tell people everything about himself. He has quite a background, you know. And I'm not talking about way back, his family and everything. Quite a background, very impressive. And I call it the zirconium, really, because I don't think there is any zirconium in the United States that is promoted on the internet, so to speak, you know, or on a website or on video. So it's like Zirconium USA is what I call Army McGuire's backyard, or whatever you want to call it, side of his house. But anyway, when I first was introduced to circular strength training, it was, let's see, I'm 54 also. It was back in the mid-70s when I first was introduced to professional wrestling. And in those days, you could only see wrestling on these two ultra-high frequency radio stations with that annoying ring of an antenna that you had to constantly play with. The young people have no idea what I'm talking about, but you know, at that time, professional wrestling was not prime time. It was not on any major network. So I started watching it because somebody told me about this sport called pro wrestling, where people yell at each other, and you got bad guys, which are heels, and you got baby faces, which are the good guys. And it's a big drama. It's a big soap opera for men. So I'm watching it, and then all of a sudden, this man called the great Hussein Arab, who later became the Iron Sheik. He used to come in the ring with these wooden clubs, these really big wooden clubs that I've never seen before. And
I remember that.
And he would swing them, and you know, he was. I don't think he was managed by Freddie Blassie back then, who was popular on the West Coast, I think. But regardless, he would swing these clubs, and in the future, he would issue a challenge to any American strength athlete, whether it be powerlifters, whether it be bodybuilders, and even other wrestlers. And no one, and I repeat, no one was able to swing the Persian clubs. And I'm talking about, I heard stories where Olympic strongmen, powerlifters, you name it, they could not swing the clubs. And I was so infatuated with these things because I was always very interested in ancient history and traditional subjects that go back to antiquity, you know, and ancient sports and anything, you know, archaeology. So anyway, I tried to research them, and I couldn't find any info on them. And because I did what you did, what happened was I Googled Persian clubs and swinging.
Not a good thing to do.
Club swinging, Indian club swing. And I got what? Yeah.
I Googled Indian swing clubs and I got something really.
And I got the same
I'll never
thing.
make that mistake again.
I got the same thing you got. You know, I got, what is this? I got to run into Ron Jeremy's website. But anyway, that's another talk show. So then what happened was I happened to stumble by accident on Mr. Julio Anta, School of Kettlebell Training in Kung Fu. He has a martial arts school in Miami, Florida. And he's the gentleman, the Cuban man with the ponytail. So
right, I'm familiar with him.
Yeah, so he teaches kids, and he has courses mostly in it's different forms of martial arts, but his main focus seems to be Kung Fu, and he has videos on the internet with Indian clubs and kettlebells. So I emailed him. And at that time, I did not have a Facebook profile, but I was doing the internet talk radio shows that I've been doing for over 10 years. So I emailed Julio Anta and I said, look, I noticed in your videos, in the background, you have all these different sized Indian clubs, including some Persian meals. And at that time, I just learned that they're called meals. Do you by any chance know of anyone in the United States that makes them? He says, actually, yes. And he sent me the information about contacting Mr. Christian Darce of revolutionclubs.net, who is located outside of Houston, Texas. So I contacted Christian Darce, and lo and behold, there it was. Now, at that time, Army McGuire's real McCoy authentic Persian meals did not exist. I didn't even know who Army McGuire was until I stumbled upon his videos. So I got the clubs. Long story short, became friends with Christian Darce. I mean, you know, they're okay. They're good. What I like about Revolution is he uses the real dense, hard hickory wood or white oak. And hickory is not cheap wood, and it's very hard and very dense. And other people do not use the hickory. But his clubs are a tad bit, you know, they're Americanized. What I really wanted were the cone-shaped traditional Persian meals, which I couldn't find. And I found out from my Iranian friends that because of politics, you can't get Persian meals imported from Iran. Okay, not even India. I go to Indian gift shops and I ask Indian people about the clubs, and they go, "Well, what are you talking about?" And I says, and I start making believe I'm swinging them. I said, "These things," and they're looking at me like I'm wacky. You know, this guy is swinging up in the air. So I'm trying to find out where I can get them. You know, because I figure if I get them from India, they're going to be cheap. But you know, then you got the cargo shipment costs and all that.
Well, you know, James, everyone that I did the same thing. I went to the Persian community. I went to the Indian community in Southern California and asked around, and everybody knew what I was talking about. But when I asked, do you have any? Does your father have one in his garage, or your grandfather, or your father-in-law? Do they have one in their garage or something? They all said, no, they're all back in the old country.
Yeah. You see, if I didn't fail woodshop in high school and I had a lathe, I would do what Mr. Chris Falcone does in South America. I would learn and attempt to make my own. And he did a good job, by the way. He made them really excellent with the grooves. And I don't know how he learned so fast. He says there's a Persian Pahlavan down in Ecuador somewhere that is his friend. And Chris Falcone uses hardwoods from the Amazon jungle that the Indians use. So he has... What he does is he teaches the Amazonian Indians martial arts. So he got to know their culture, and he goes and he gets the wood free of charge from nature, and he's making these things. And you know, I was very impressed by what he did. But getting back to what we're talking about, I searched. It took me like years to try to find these damn things, and finally, okay, I got hooked up by Julio Anta with Revolution Clubs, and as time went by, I noticed another company, Atomic Athletic, but I still could not find the cone-shaped meals. Now, then, after talking to Mr. McGuire, he had told me, we're going into the future now. Recently, he told me about the fact that he wants to start his own company, and he told me how he wants to make his clubs. And lo and behold, now he has a gorgeous, stunning product line on his website. Agelessstrength.com. This is his website, Ageless Strength, and they are.
That's how I met him.
Yeah, authentic meals, and there's several coats of clear lacquer on them, and there's a cherry stain underneath, and they're stunning.
I just incidentally, James, I just posted right now a picture of the most beautiful clubs I've ever seen, and they are Army McGuire's clubs, yeah. And I just put them up right now, so just hit the web. They are absolutely breathtaking. They seem like they're 4.5 feet tall, and they're just.
Wow. Have you ever seen
incredible.
Army McGuire's, what I call them, telephone poles? They're like over 40 pounds, and they weren't cheap. He told me they were pricey, and he had them custom made, and they're quite large. And then he also bought some Persian meals from some Pahlavans friends he had that were closing. One man closed his Zircone, and they're gorgeous. I mean, it's like. It's a good thing he got a hold of them, because who knows what might have happened to them. But the thing is, people out there, if you're not familiar with circular strength training, even though I'm not a huge fan, I read a statement made by Scott Sonnen of Club Bells, okay?
Right.
And he said that a mere 15-pound club is equal in force to a 75-pound dumbbell or a 54-pound kettlebell, which is obvious that the kettlebell is more challenging than the dumbbell, and then the club being the most difficult. And I guess that has to do with torque. Same thing with a gada, with a mace. And that's what these kids that go to the gym just don't understand, and they can't even do the Hindu push-up on the Shena.
No, they've taken physical education out of the high schools, and it's amazing to me. You get all these 20-year-old kids, and they haven't done anything physical in 5 years because they grew up in front of a keyboard. And they're all just as tough as can be if you'll ask them. They're just as tough as can be, but they can't do a day's work, and they've got soft hands, and even if they're skinny, they still got pot bellies. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Absolutely. It's a generation of texting instead of dealing one-on-one with another human being face-to-face. Everything is texting. Everything is their video games. Their whole life is in front of a laptop or a tablet. And
you and I were both born in '58.
Yep.
When I was growing up, I had one toy. It was called outside. And you stayed outside all day till the sun went down. Then you came inside. You did your chores and you ate your dinner with the family.
I was outside all the time. I was out by the creek and the river, freshwater fishing, and playing softball with my friends. And I had a lot of exotic pets back then. I used to go. It was all outdoor activities. There was no high-tech toys or high-tech anything, and that's what we did. We rode a lot of bikes. We did a lot of bike riding, which was definitely exercise. I used to walk. God knows how. I don't want to sound like Abe Lincoln, but I used to walk far to school and home, and I used to actually lots of times I come home for lunch, and I make trips, a whole bunch of trips back and forth to school, and that's all we did. It was all physical activity. And what toys did I have? I had boring toys like Mr. Potato Head and Hot Wheels, and with that dumb thing we used to play with, Etch and Sketch. What else? Well, in those days, Mr. Potato Head looked like a potato. He had little nooks and crannies in his head. But anyway, I had creepy crawlers where you make your own rubber bugs. That's it. We didn't have anything sophisticated. Rock'em Sock'em robots. Actually, that was kind of fun. We had Rock'em Sock'em robots, and but the point is, it was a simple life. We didn't know any better. That's what we had. But now it's a very sedentary generation, and also they do not. They avoid dealing with people one-on-one. Everybody that's young just wants to text. I go, no, you call. No, you don't text. I want to
My
talk.
fingers and thumbs are too big to text effectively. I would rather just call and talk.
But every time I go somewhere, people are walking around like they're hypnotized by their iPhones, and their thumbs are going a mile a minute. Do they do that in California also?
Absolutely.
Those jabronis. Oh, America, I don't know where it's going. They need a shillelagh up the side of the head and a cowboy boot in their butt. That's what they need. But, like I said, these guys, my friend who's a power lifter, Brian Slade, a power lifter, and he was a pro wrestler, we were doing security for wrestling. This is when I first became introduced to the business. We did security. So after the TV taping, we went in the ring, and he wanted a horse around, a little horseplay. So within 1 minute, I tore his bicep tendon right from his bone just by locking up with him. And I'm thinking to myself, here's a guy who's hitting both shoulders with 2 different steroids per week. And he says he's doing shoulder presses with 100-pound dumbbells. And all of a sudden, his tendon snaps.
Well, because when he's training, you have to understand, James, he's training, he's locked into a fixed position, and he's doing traditional linear training.
Right.
He's moving in one direction, and the resistance comes back because that's the way the cam on the machine is set up. And he'll go in another direction to do another exercise, and he will go through a checklist of different body parts that he wants to train that day. All different machines, one type of movement,
right.
And that's it.
Right.
And that's not how life works.
No, it's not one-dimensional. It actually, life goes in circles. You know, our body movement is like what we do with the mace and the clubs. That's more realistic. And the calisthenics are very much underrated. And I mean, God, even doing pull-ups and chin-ups is tougher than many weightlifting exercises.
Absolutely. And most of the greatest weightlifters and current crop of bodybuilders can't do very many pull-ups. They can't do very many push-ups. They want to do another type of training that they're used to. And you can't blame them because that's what they've been fed through the magazines and such. And the magazines are really just catalogs to sell supplements. And they seem to not be aware of the fact that a generation ago or 2 generations ago or 3 generations ago, there were incredibly developed physical specimens who didn't know what protein was, who didn't know what carbohydrates and trace minerals and antioxidants, or like you like to call them, uncle oxidants. People didn't know that. And all you could sell your customer was a set of barbells, and he was finished being your customer. So then they come up with the idea that we could sell them something consumable, a supplement, a pill, a powder, and now they have to keep coming back to us every month. And to ensure that they come back to us every month, we'll advertise them in these slick, glossy magazines with bikini girls and big lifters on the beach, and you get the idea. You're a guy sitting on the East Coast, and you get the idea that everybody in California is a suntanned bodybuilder with a surfboard, and that's not real life.
An aspiring actor or actress, and I used to think that a lot of the men were walking around with those black berets. You know, back in the '60s, the director had the beret, and this is the impression I had. Also, I used to, in the late 60s, the first time I opened up Muscle magazine, there was one by Dan Laurie, and there was a few of them, but Weeder's Muscle and Fitness. Oh, by the way, I heard Joe Weider started in partnership with Bob Hoffman of the York Barbell Company. And when
Yes, he did.
And when Weider broke away from Hoffman and became the Master Blaster, he denied any help or affiliation with Bob Hoffman.
Right. Well, Weider would not have existed had it have not been for the kindness and assistance of Bob Hoffman.
Yeah. So, see what happens when you bend over backwards and, you know, you help people. Sometimes they appreciate you, and sometimes they forget all about you. But that's what happened. So when I opened up the magazine back in the late '60s as a kid, I would see pictures of, at that time, was Arnold Schwarzenegger holding up a bunch of beach bunnies, you know, girls in bikinis. He's got one on each shoulder, one on each arm. He's got one, you know, down where his legs are, and, you know, advertising Joe Weider products. Oh, I owe everything to Joe Weider. Joe Weider, I drink this, whatever, dynamic muscle building shake or whatever. Dave Draper would advertise the Weider products, and at that time they were just like soy protein and a lot of sugar and some supplements in there. But the real truth is the guys were on the juice. You know,
right, but that wasn't mentioned.
No,
that was never mentioned. What was mentioned was that you have to up your intake of protein, your protein grams. You have to take this new super recovery aid. You have to take this vitamin and this. And the truth is, you can take an aspiring bodybuilder or somebody who has a little bit of success, and you can tell him that you want to sponsor him, and he'll say, well, that sounds good. And then you tell him, we will get you the highest tech gymnasium to train in. You tell us what equipment you want and we will stock it. And he'll say, okay. But before he signs his name, he has a question. And then you tell him that you will have access to the greatest produce and the greatest food and the greatest lean cuts of beef and steak and veal and chicken. And he'll say, well, okay, that sounds good, but I have to ask you a question. And then you tell him that he will have massage therapists. He will have psychiatrists to psych him up to train. He will have access to a tanning bed, to whatever he needs to get in condition. He will not sign his name on the line until he is guaranteed that he can get his pharmaceutical assistance. Because without his pharmaceutical assistance, all the previous things that I mentioned are basically meaningless.
Even if you have the right genetics, even if you're a natural-born mesomorph, you still, in order to compete in Mr. Olympia or Mr. Universe, you still need the pharmaceuticals. And I'm sure they were supplied, just like I'm sure Vince McMahon supplies the WWE, or he used to supply the WWE. You know, you can get it anywhere, actually. But no one told us that Arnold Schwarzenegger would pop like 20 Dianabol tablets in one shot and everything, because we only saw Arnold in the magazine, and along with Frank Zane and Franco Columbo, Dave Draper, whatever, holding up the Weider products. So
absolutely, that's what sold the magazine. That's what kept the machine going. And who cares about the countless frustrated guys that were home trying to look like that and realizing that they didn't have the genetics, because only 0.1% do, and is no matter how much money they spent on those supplements and those products and those super exercises and benches and training gloves, what have you, it wasn't going to make an effect on them unless they took steroids. And even with steroids, if you're not born with all the genetic advantages, you'll get bigger, you'll get stronger, and you might be amazing to your group of friends, but in competition, you'll fall flat on your face.
Yeah, kind of like American Idol. All those goofballs throughout the country, friends and relatives say, oh, you're real talented. You've got to go to Hollywood. You got to go to Vegas. Meanwhile, they sound like crap.
Sometimes I wonder, doesn't someone in their family love them enough and love their family name enough to tell them, don't stand up and put our last name on you and represent our family with that voice?
Oh my God! So many of them sound the same. But you know how many
You
kids?
know, interestingly, James, people ask me to sing at parties all the time. They really do. When the party's over and they want people to go, they ask me to sing, and it seems to clear things out. I don't get it, but
Yeah, well,
I don't
I only
know.
did karaoke once, but I sang "Wiggle It" just a little bit from the '80s. Two in a room, I think the group. Anyway, uh, all these kids that wiggle it just a little bit. It sounds like that.
I got you. I
All right,
got you.
all these kids were mimicking the workouts in the Weider Muscle and Fitness, and they were actually copying the very workouts done by the pros that were on the steroids, and they could not. They got frustrated and quit because they could not perform those workouts. You know what I mean? Like in other words, they always leave the steroids out of the stories, and all these kids would try to copy those training programs, and some of them want to go out to the Mecca there. What is it? Gold's Gym in Venice Beach, California, where all the famous guys train, and they don't realize that you have to have the right genetics and the right pharmaceuticals and a little bit of luck in order to compete at that level.
You're absolutely right. You know, I got into this type of unconventional training because I was absolutely worthless as a bodybuilder. I trained harder than anybody I knew. I got stronger, a lot stronger, but I just didn't have that look. I was 6'5" and had this giant head and these giant joints, knees and elbows, and it just made the muscles I had look so much smaller than other people. And I was frustrated. So then I found out about this type of unconventional training, and I realized that strength and conditioning wise, anybody can improve. Anybody can make great progress and continue to do so even at an advanced age. And I said, I'm in. I sold all my weights and everything. I bought kettlebells, and that's what started me on the track. And I've never looked back.
Well, you're about the same height as Lou Ferrigno. You're about 6'5", right?
You know, I'll dig it up. I have a picture of me meeting him when I was 18. He came out here. This was before the Hulk, and we're talking. It's 1976. And he was a guest poser at a contest in Pasadena, California. And I have a picture of me standing next to him, shaking hands with him.
Wow.
And I look about as big as his arm.
Yeah, he was pretty. He was like the largest bodybuilder at that time.
A great gentleman, and a great ambassador for bodybuilding. He has the look. Yeah. He has the genetic advantages that only 1/10% have. And he's used them to the full.
I heard Casey Viator was a big guy too back then. But Ferrigno, he was kind of mistreated when he was on the Apprentice. You know, the people were talking about him behind his back, and you know, and then he got really angry. I don't blame him, but anyway,
Listen, I've seen him in person a few times. About a year ago, I had a booth at a trade show. And he came by, and he looked at the kettlebells, and I wanted to get a picture with him, and he was so apologetic. He said, I can't take a picture with you with the kettlebells because for legal reasons it will be like I'm endorsing them. And I said, hey, no problem. He's always been a complete gentleman. Always. I have only the highest of respect for him.
Yeah, he seems that way. He seems very nice and humble. And that's what they say about Bruno Sammartino too. They're very humble people, one of the nicest people you could meet. They're not their success did not go to their head. And during Pumping Iron, I used to feel sorry for Lou Ferrigno. He used to get nagged at home quite a bit, and you know, but maybe they well, Arnold explained the Pumping Iron video that they made a lot of stories up. That, you know, that Arnold did not want to go to his father's funeral because he had to train for Mr. Olympia, and that wasn't true.
Right.
That wasn't true, and he said that bodybuilding felt better than being with, you know,
Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
that was
yeah,
drama that was created
yeah,
to sell the movie to the public who knew nothing about training at the time.
yeah. I mean, I was gonna tell you, but we have mixed company, you know. But anyway, they made up the producers wanted this drama to sell the DVD for pumping iron.
Right.
So, but getting back to circular training, it works not only your muscles, your tendons, ligaments, endurance, cardio. It's just it's the most complete type of form of exercise known, and along with the body weight calisthenics, these are all time proven. They go back to ancient times where the Persian warriors would train. Same thing with India. The mace gada was a weapon of war, and the clubs. I think the clubs in Persia, the clubs represented. Well, I know the shena represented the sword, and then you have the sang, which are the shields. But I'm not familiar with all the Persian equipment. I know there's one object that has a bunch of bells on it that
Yeah, it looks like a metal bow and arrow.
Yes,
called a kabaddi, and they hold it over their head and they go from side to side with it. And again, that was to prepare them for battle. The big reason that they wanted a mace with a weight on the end of it, or clubs that were much heavier than swords. You know, an effective sword barely weighs a pound. Mm-hmm. The reason was in 1,000 years ago, when people fought in battle, you wouldn't fight one-on-one. You'd fight 20 on 20. And when you tried to swing through somebody, the sword would stop at somebody's spine, and you would have to put your foot on their breast and pull the sword out. And you just don't have time to do that. So you had to develop the ability and the strength to swing completely through somebody. Bone, spine, everything. And just swinging around a 1-pound sword wouldn't do it. So they started getting 15-pound clubs and 20-pound clubs and heavier and heavier. And that, because a war only lasts so long, but training is continuous, people started to compete in the training for this type of thing, which was the Zurkhane. And to this day, there are still competitions in Iran of the Zurkhane, and these people aren't soldiers anymore, but they do compete, and they compete very successfully.
Yes, yes. In the martial art that they practice, which is a form of like wrestling, right? Similar to Greco-Roman wrestling. It's a type of wrestling. Now in India, there are other forms of exercise. There are various forms. They do rope climbing. There's something, it's like an Indian barbell. They call it a samtola. It's like a log with handles in it. There's a Karela. Right. Yeah, something which is like a combination of a mace and a club. They call it a Karela. But
there's also the naul and the gar naul, which is means a big naul, and it is a circular cement stone that they will put around their shoulders and neck, and they'll do squats or they'll run with it.
Looks like a big bagel. You know, it's a donut.
It does. It looks like a huge bagel. And they will hold it overhead for time, or they'll just put it around and they'll squat up and down, because they do squats for thousands of reps, literally thousands of reps.
The great Gama, he held some records in the Hindu squats and the Hindu push-ups. I know the Hindu squat, for those that don't know what it is, it's a deep knee bend on your toes, so to speak. Your heels are
done rapidly.
Yes, rapidly. Your heels are off the floor, and you know, it's you're doing high volume reps, and it's deceivingly effective. Because they prove that high reps, high volume, does build muscles just as much as heavy weights and low repetitions do.
Right, but it also builds something else. It builds a determination, a grit, a fortitude that you just don't see in the guy who goes to his strip mall Mick gym, and he's in there for 30 minutes, and he comes out and he hasn't even sweated.
Yeah.
You know, I wrote an article about that tactical training and unconventional training for a magazine, My Mad Methods, and I was really happy that they asked me to write this editorial. And it's brief. Is it okay if I read it?
Go ahead. Do whatever you like.
Okay, it might make a few enemies because it did when it was first printed.
Nah, that's good. I like controversy.
Okay. Well, it is kind of brief, but it's what is tactical training? And it sure isn't bodybuilding, but it does involve building your body, or more precisely, building the qualities and attributes that will serve you when, as they say, the fit hits the shan. It's all well and good to admire the cuts in your chest, but when someone is really trying to cut your chest, you had better be able to react, respond, and get out of harm's way. Times are tough, and in more and more countries, the sight of armed military guards in public places is common. We need to understand that with civil unrest, high-tension, stressful lifestyles, and the ever-growing, over-medicated population brings the battlefield to our city streets, to our schools, and even to our corporate offices. Look, we all love working out, or else we wouldn't be reading My Mad Methods in the first place. So let's consider what kind of training is going to enable us to survive and thrive when things get ugly. If you want to be the master of disaster and react like an action hero, you must realize that in a crisis situation, your heart is pounding, you're out of breath, and you're covered with sweat. Does it not make sense that this should be a regular result of your training? Think about it. You sit at your desk at work until you sit in your car on your way to the parking structure of your gym and at the top of the escalator, and then you go and lie down on a soft padded bench to train? No, no, no. The late great strongman Herman Gorner, look him up, said that the three most important measures of a man's strength are what he can lift off the ground, what he can put overhead, and what he can walk with and carry. Do you do any of that in your training? My pet peeve is beautiful Bobby bench press, who can lie down and push hundreds of pounds off his chest, but he gets hurt trying to move a couch. What good are those muscles if you have to live like a hothouse plant with frequent feedings and naps to build a bicep on an arm that can't even protect a loved one? Listen, Bobby, the purpose of your legs is to move your body, not to sit on and push a pile of plates away from you. Pick up something, put it on your shoulder, and walk, run, hop, or climb with it. Forget the pulley machine, Bobby, and pull yourself up over a bar or a fence or a tree. No, Bobby, don't pick up a prescription for tranquilizers at the pharmacy. Go to the hardware store next door and buy a sledgehammer and pound on some old tires for 20 minutes. You'll have no trouble falling asleep at night. That lifting belt you bought last month, Bobby, sure looks nice, but it should have some sweat stains on it by now. Better yet, build up your lower back and abdomen so that you'll be strong 24 hours a day and not rely on a belt. There's a saying among athletic coaches that some athletes look like Tarzan, but they play like Jane. Far better to look like Tarzan, be able to protect Jane, scare away the gorillas, and provide security in the jungle. We are made to move. Get moving in your training. Move yourself and move objects. Heavy, odd-shaped, hard to handle for long distances. Listen, watching an elite athlete lift a perfectly balanced, precision-made Olympic barbell with great skill is an awesome and inspiring sight, but real life is not always balanced with nice, easy grip handles. Let's get real in our training. I've seen too many people talking on a cell phone, pulling a pulley handle with the other hand while looking in the mirror. Oh, I'm sorry, Bobby. You look in the mirror to check your form while you train? Well, listen. Doing a layup dribbling a basketball is far more complex than almost anything you'll ever do in a gym, and no kid ever learned to learn to do a layup looking in a mirror. Forget the mirror. Ditch the lifting gloves and get some thick skin. Get serious about your training, and after you decide what piece of equipment you'll use, a kettlebell, my main weapon of choice, a club, a mace, a sled, or a sandbag, get a timer and time your work and your rest periods. Always try to shorten your rest period because life won't always attack you when you're ready. You won't always be guaranteed 3 square meals a day, so go to the gym hungry sometimes and hit it hard. Go all out. Quit looking for a hero and be one. You just might surprise yourself. And the feedback from that article was incredible. A lot of people, they didn't agree with what I said, but I think the older generation does. I think the people that are young that want to be tough and want to be tough 25 years from now, I think they agree with me.
Outstanding article. Thank you for reading it. It's a known fact that the best way to prevent lower back injuries is to have strong abdominals, and also the lower back. If your lumbar area is in shape like the rest of your body, you won't need to wear a weightlifting belt if you use proper form, of course. But anyway, you were going to say something?
I sold my weightlifting belt, and along with all my other benches and equipment, when I bought kettlebells, clubs, and the mace, and I've never looked back. I'm glad I made the choice. It works for me.
Yeah, I mean, natural overall fitness that you get from circular training is just far superior to the one-dimensional conventional lifting. I mean, somebody that I know who competes in bodybuilding said that he prefers to do targeted, isolated exercises. But in real life situations, like you said, you know, functional muscles and tendons and ligaments that are not being babied and coddled, you're not going to get that by just, you know, being comfortable, sitting, you know, in a comfortable padded seat and just pushing and pulling on the cables.
Also, the person, James, the athlete, we'll call him that, the athlete who develops the bulk of his muscles in a controlled setting, in a linear path up resistance in one way only, he might develop big, beautiful muscles, but he is the first guy to get hurt on the athletic field or on the mat or in real life. Yeah. He's a great athlete. He scores a lot of points, and he looks great doing it, and he's got the endorsements. But he dropped a suitcase at the airport, and he bent to pick it up, and now he's hurt, and he's off for 8 weeks or 8 months. It happens all the time.
Wow, just for bending over.
You know,
wow.
Let me tell you something. One of my big selling points in kettlebells, clubs, and the mace is that these things come from areas of the world where they don't know about repetitive motion syndrome. They don't know about carpal tunnel syndrome. They don't know about rotor cuff injuries. It's unheard of in those countries because they got to get up and go to work the next day and every day.
Yeah, they don't have time to be dealing with that, and you know, reading articles and reading WebMD and what to do, what not to do, and all this stuff.
Did you ever see the brilliant documentary called The Physical Body? It's a DVD. It's a tour, an American tour to all the various wrestling clubs, the Akcharas in India, and he filmed and reported on their training, and sadly how it's dying today. But it's 2 DVDs. It's available from my friends at budovideos.com.
Okay.
They do so much for me. I'd like to give a shout out to them.
Sure.
You can go to budovideos.com and you can look on their DVDs for The Physical Body 1 and 2. Your training will never be the same after you watch that.
Yeah, I mean, old school training at its best. They were, when Bruno Sammartino was inducted recently into the WWE Hall of Fame, he was mentioning that he highly doubts if the young athletes of today have the endurance and stamina that the old-time athletes had, because he says he used to have matches that went over 1 hour long, and he has never seen, you know, a young athlete have that kind of endurance where, you know, you're wrestling somebody for that long. And then getting back to the other situation where what is the integrity of your tendons and ligaments? You may have a great deal of muscle mass and definition and vascularity and a whole bit, but how are your tendons and ligaments, and how will your body react in a high demand, high stress situation at any given moment? like you told me about the weightlifter who bent over to pick up his luggage, his suitcase, right? Is that what happened? And he pulled his lower back
Absolutely.
down?
You know, just about every year for the last 5 years at the World Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Championships held out here in Long Beach, California, I'm at the demonstrating kettlebells and the power maces at the Budo Videos booth. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting. That community is embracing kettlebells, and I'm happy to see that. But when you see the competitors walking around, those with the fabulous physiques, and you have to remember that a lot of the Brazilians, steroids are easier to get over there than they are here. Very easy to get, and actually protein supplements are difficult to get over there. We walk into a store and can buy them. It's completely flipped. But when you see these guys walk into the arena to compete, the ones with the incredible physiques, they always have their lats flared out and their arms are down like this. And to me, it's a sure sign that that guy's going to be third, fourth, or fifth place, because the winner comes in and he's not trying to be a puffer fish and intimidate anybody with his development. He lets what he can do, his technique and his strength and his stamina, answer all the questions. And rather than have his hands down, I notice at the end of the competitions, they have their hands raised. It's all what you want to get out of this whole thing.
Yeah, you put the big man on his back and you have an even playing field. And this is Gracie-style jiu-jitsu that you're talking about?
Absolutely, Gracie? Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And just it's a fascinating sport to watch. Those guys are too tough for me, I'll tell you that. But a lot of them have come up and tried the kettlebells, and I usually, you'll see it on my website, just to show that I'm not an egomaniac about this. When I meet some of these ones, especially the champions, I always have them get me in an arm lock, and there's a page on my website, libertystrengthtraining.com, of everybody I've met that's of note getting me in arm locks. Well,
I know I took about a month of the Gracie-style jiu-jitsu, and what they tell you is instead of trying to outmuscle your opponent, getting close to him, have him sort of draw you in, and then think about every move you make and attempt to put him in a submission hold. And, of course, get him off his feet. If he's a big guy, you get him off his feet and get him on the ground. And there's just various submission holds, and it's quite interesting. But whereas with karate, taekwondo, and I guess kung fu, you have to maintain a certain amount of space between you and your opponent. But getting back to equipment. Oh boy, Mr. Scott Sonnen of Club Bell, originally, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Torque Athletic was making his clubs originally, or they still do?
I'm not sure if they still do. I'm not sure if Torque Athletic, if they're still operating or not. I should have researched that before we started this, but I bought my set of club bells, my original set from Torque Athletic, and I still have them. I still use them.
And they make the mace bells too.
Yes, yes, they make the 10K and 15K, and I think a 12K and a 5K mace bell.
I mean, how somebody could put a patent on an ancient exercise tool is beyond me, and
I don't know. It's kind of like Nike patenting a basketball and saying that Spalding or Voigt can't make a basketball. Doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, yes, they're reasonably priced. Yes, they will out-survive because they're made of steel and I guess neoprene rubber coating. They have a longer shelf life than a wooden club. But I still prefer the feel of swinging wooden clubs. There's nothing. Oh,
so do I.
Yeah, there's nothing.
And if you talk to Army McGuire about it, I mean, he's so passionate about it. He's almost religious about his wooden clubs, and it's refreshing. He's got a fabulous collection, and like I said, I posted a picture of one not too long ago of the best, most beautiful pair I've ever seen in my life, and they're his. people tell me, yeah, well, my steel clubs, you know, they can withstand anything. The wooden ones will chip if you bang into things. And I try to tell these people, yeah, I have that same problem with my car, so I don't drive my car into things.
Well, the wooden, the steel clubs look like a giant baseball bat, and no matter how hard I squeeze, when I used to have the club bells, no matter how hard I squeeze the handle, which was knurled, you know, it had those the little bumps, like similar to knurls on a dumbbell. No matter how hard I squeezed, my hands kept on sliding to the very end. So the whole point of adjusting your resistance incrementally by, you know, raising and lowering your hand on the handle, it just didn't work for me. And I love the feel of wood, the look of the wood. It's beautiful. The ladies of the house, they don't complain at all that the clubs are in the living room. They actually love them. And you know, what can I say? It becomes a conversation piece, and it's something that hopefully you can leave them to somebody who would take care of them, like a family heirloom. And they're works of art, really. I mean, when they're made traditionally and that well, it's a labor of love, like Army McGuire told me, and Paul from Perth, Australia. It's a labor of love because it's not something you can mass produce yet, like, let's say, a baseball bat, Louisville Slugger.
There's heart and soul put into those things. And it's, like you said, not mass-produced, and each one is its own original, and they are a functional work of art, and at the same time, very effective athletic training equipment.
And the grain is different on every pair of clubs, the pattern of the wood grain, and it's just a beautiful a work of art to behold with an ancient history behind it, and being functional at the same time. Second to none. I mean, what can you say about it? When other people, other weightlifters, can't swing them, and you shut them up immediately. And I mean, you look at them, and people see a pair of wooden clubs, and the first thing out of their mouth, and it aggravates Army McGuire also, the first words out of their mouth is, how much do those clubs weigh?
And that's the sign of ignorant person. You know, you can watch a professional basketball player shooting baskets, dunking a basketball, and it's only after you've been watching it for a couple of days that you finally say, well, how high is the rim? Because that's not the important thing. The important thing isn't how high it is. It's the athletic ability of doing everything that they do.
Yeah, you know.
And the weight of the club isn't the real most crucial element. It's the movement and the times that you do the movement. You know, on the picture that I posted not too long ago, a friend of mine, Mark Smith, who owns a wonderful gym in the West, he wrote, "Beautiful. It is a lovely marriage of art and function."
Yes.
And he's absolutely right.
It's beautiful to watch when clubs are swinging in perfect form. I mean, you could take a pair of 12-pound Persian meals, and if you never touch your body and you bring the clubs out in front of you, in front of your chest, and swing them and bring them back out in front and pivot as you're swinging each Persian club, and just pivot from right to left and never touch your body, those 12 pounds will not feel like just 12 pounds. They will feel
absolutely not.
A hell of a lot heavier. You know?
Are you aware that in India, with what they call the joris, that they for the very elite trainers, the athletes will put nails in them.
I've seen pictures.
So that there's no way that you can rub them and assist it by dragging it across your body. You have to have these heavy things away from your body. And I love clubs. I really love them, but I'm not going to try that.
There's a couple or a few pictures at the group. Our group is on Facebook. International Brotherhood of Pahlavans, and the URL is my original name for the group called, I used to call it the meal ticket, you know, play on words.
Pretty smart.
Yeah, MEEL, the meal ticket. And when you have a Facebook group and you change the name of the group, you cannot change the original URL. So I figured, it's cute, the meal ticket. Let's leave it alone. But if you go there, feel free to join it if you're interested in old school, traditional, ancient fitness that works everything, every aspect of your body. You know, it took years for me to track these items down. It really took a lot of research and a lot of, you know, time to find a company that made them. And because of politics, you know, you can't get, I don't know why you can't get the Indian joris, but I haven't seen any. The Iranian meals of different sizes. I mean, it would be so much easier if these items were imported into the United States, and it would bring the cost down. But it's not so. It's not that way. And we were talking, Rick Brown and myself were talking about the benefit of doing high volume swings with the British or American style Indian clubs, you know, the bowling pins, as I call them, and the stamina and improved mobility of your shoulder joints, endurance. You don't neglect any of it. Like Carl Gotch used to say, you can do so much with so little and hit the body from every angle imaginable. I mean, I even do the wheel, you know, the stomach wheel like Bob Backlund used to do. You get on your knees and you go in and out. I do the
It's
wheel.
great.
Yeah.
Listen, Carl Gotch had a complete set of clubs. Okay, he was the champion of bodyweight exercising.
Yes.
But he had the Gada, and he had a very well sizable collection of wooden clubs, and
Yes.
he loved them.
I saw a video of him training the Japanese wrestlers.
I have that, yeah, Minoru Suzuki, and they weren't anywhere near as good with that equipment as he was, but they were serious students, and they all know how to use them now.
Antonio Inoki, you had, I think, Tatsumi Fujinami, all those guys, those who later became big stars in Japan and throughout the world internationally as wrestlers, they were trained by Carl Gotch in Kushti and Pahlavani, like a combination of both. But he had Persian meals, Carl Gotch, in those videos.
Yes. I found out about Gotch from Jake Shannon, who was so enamored by him, he went and interviewed him, and it's a great interview. And it so motivated Jake Shannon that he got with the people at Torque Athletic and said that they have to come up with a mace. They have to. He gave them the specs, and that's why I have a mace today.
Well, Ken Thiessen, strongman, club swinger,
wrestler,
mace swinger, professional wrestler, was with the WWE in the 1990s. He is very clever in his low-cost club and mace making that he does at home using cement in whatever. Like he even made a mace with a plastic jack-o'-lantern candy bowl. He filled it up and he put a bamboo pole in it. And it's like 20 some odd pounds, and it's cute. I said you should call it a what I call it, a Jacko mace or something.
Yeah, as a professional trainer though, I can't. It's great for him, and it's great if somebody wants to do that at home. But I can't endorse that because it's the safety factor, and I could never use anything like that with a client of mine.
Yeah, because they'll look at you like, why are you swinging a Halloween exercise equipment with a bamboo pole and a jack-o'-lantern? You know, they look at you weird. But it's cute, but not with a serious client who's paying you money.
Well, not just that, James. My insurance wouldn't work if I had any kind of homemade or equipment that wasn't top flight.
Well, you have to put large nails or screws in the end of the, let's say it's a shovel handle, whatever handle is going into the cement of the gutter, you have to have these nails or screws in all directions on the end to hold. That's what I was told. You can't just cement the pole into the I mean, I would use a good cement like Saccrete or something, but there's no safety there. It can still slide out and become a very dangerous ballistic projectile.
Yeah, and because of the centrifugal force, there's videos up on YouTube on how to make them.
Yeah.
Some people have put them up if somebody wants to do that. But if you're serious, and we all started out doing that, all of us did, because it took time to get to get the equipment. You're excited. You save the money. You send off for it. It's 6 to 8 weeks before you get it, and you're not going to wait. So you get a broomstick. You stick it into a bowling ball, and wow, you got a mace. And we've all done that, but when you're a professional trainer, you can't train your clients with that. There's just no way you'll get away with that.
No, I used to. I went to a toy store, a real cheapo toy store, and I got 2 fat plastic wiffle ball bats, and I filled it with play sand, and I silicone rubber the hole shut, and that was my first pair of clubs. I mean, they were 10 pounds, but they were boring because they did not look like Persian meals at the Iron Sheik swing, and I got tired of them. Yeah. I don't want to look at them anymore.
if it's just for yourself, that's okay.
Yeah.
Again, and we all started out that way. All of us in America, at least.
You have, of course, the ones that Ken makes, and they're very well made. But the only way you can get away with that with a client is if you painted them and they look pretty. I think Ken Thiessen's cement clubs might. Do you ever see photos of them?
I've seen tremendous photos and videos of Ken. He and I are friends.
Yeah.
And his stuff is fabulous. And what he can do with them. In the mace spell world, at least in America, you got Ken Thiessen, who's untouchable.
Yes.
You got a guy in Idaho. Kevin Wicks, who he's worked out at my house. He's untouchable also. Those 2 are on the top of the ladder, and then on the second and third rung of the ladder, there's nobody, because nobody comes close. Okay, and then after the 4th and 5th rung of the ladder, you got guys like me that are hanging on.
Yes. Well, Kevin Wicks has his YouTube channel is like something like Irish Club Swinger.
Irish Club Swinger.
Irish Club Swinger, and you could check out Kevin Wicks's videos. Very strong, big kid.
His website is heroicevolution.com.
Good, great guy, and we'll plug all of our people. Like I said before, Army McGuire's website is Ageless Strength.
AgelessStrength.com.
AgelessStrength.com.
You can't go wrong with any of those guys. You also can't go wrong with an old-timer named Rick Brown, who has LibertyStrengthTraining.com.
Yes.
If you live on the West Coast, if you live in Southern California, and you're serious about swinging, lifting, kettlebells, look me up. I'm not hard to find. I'm all over YouTube, Facebook, and LibertyStrengthTraining.com. In fact, I'm doing a seminar in June, and it'll be dealing with mace and heavy club training, June 22nd at the Long Beach Kettlebell Club.
Oh, and if they can't find you at home or in your office, they'll find you on a surfboard swinging your mace out on a surfboard.
You know what's something?
I'm only kidding. I'm only joking.
I've lived in Southern California all my life. Okay, I was born in Los Angeles. I've lived here all my life, and like I told you, I met Jake Shannon in Dana Point, which is a resort capital in the Southland. And I think Jake Shannon and I are the only guys that were living in Dana Point at that time that did not have a tan and did not have a surfboard in our garage.
Right, and did
The
not
only
have
two.
flowing blonde locks, you know, like
No, no. Jake Shannon shaves his head bald, and I'm rapidly catching up to him.
you know, actually a shade. If somebody is thin up on top, it actually looks better when it's shaved bald, and you have like a goatee with the mustache. It actually looks good. That look. I mean, compared to Kobe with that's the situation. Uh, um, oh, by the way, gentlemen, saw palmetto berry standardized extract, and particularly stinging nettles. It brings dihydrotestosterone levels down, which is a major culprit in that situation.
Well, listen, I should have started a long time ago. Um, one thing I wanted to say, if I can, about
Sure.
my seminar. I wanted to get the best that would appeal to a wide range of people, because I know a lot of people have asked about the mace and the clubs, and so I got a guy who's a European style GS kettlebell lifter, and he competes in that very successfully. He's as tough as nails and just as strong as can be, and he's the big part of Long Beach Kettlebell Club. And then I got myself, and I wanted to appeal to a wider audience, so I got an amazingly strong female athlete. She weighs 100 pounds, and she can deadlift 250 pounds.
Wow.
She's incredible. So we decided to call this seminar, since he's strong as steel, and I'm old as stone, and she's sweet as sugar. This is the Steel, Stone, and Sugar Seminar. And the advertising will hit in about a week. Or you can go to lbk.com, which is Long Beach Kettlebell Club. You can go to my website, again, libertystrengthtraining.com. And the three of us are going to put this seminar on June 22nd at Long Beach. And we will cover those phases of training. She'll be dealing with kettlebell work as it teaches and assists powerlifting. He'll be teaching the European style of GS training, and I'll do all the heavy maces and clubs. And between the three of us, people will get a great deal of information. I'm really excited about this. The combination like this hasn't been done before.
Very exciting. I'm excited about it for you. I mean, any videos of this seminar that you post on YouTube, feel free to post them on the Facebook group.
Absolutely. I'll say we're going to have for everyone who shows up at the seminar, there'll be a free T-shirt, a Steel, Stone, and Sugar T-shirt, and I'll even send you one, James, although I know you're East Coast and you won't be there, but we'll make you a part of it too.
All right, thanks. I'll give you my address off the air
Great.
and on Facebook. And like I said, all the T-shirts that are involving your T-shirt, Ken Thiesens wants to send me one, but he only has small sizes left. But I'll wear them on my show, and I'll plug. And feel free to plug anything else before we bang it up for tonight. Give your website one more time.
My website is www.libertystrengthtraining.com. One word, libertystrengthtraining.com. And I do a lot of work with Kaizen Athletic, which is a subsidiary of budovideos.com. If you need any DVD about martial arts, any obscure martial art, if there's a DVD out there, Budo Videos carries it.
Okay.
budovideos.com.
And the area where you live and have your business is, what is the town in California again?
I'm in South Orange County.
Okay.
Laguna Hills is where I live.
Okay.
Anywhere in South Orange County is where I operate.
Okay. And then like you said, you're not all that far from Army McGuire. That's it.
No, less than an hour away on the great California traffic.
An hour counting the traffic.
Yeah,
Wow.
An hour on a bad day. If there's no traffic, if it's 2 a.m. in the morning, I could probably zip down there in 35 minutes. But
do people
believe me, going to see Army is worth walking that far if you have to.
Yeah, you want to plan it out where you get there early and spend a decent amount of time because it's such a fascinating person to visit, and his club collection is unbelievable. I saw the video.
It's funny. Every time Army calls me up, he always says it starts like this. He says, Rick, really quick. I only got 10 minutes. I got to tell you this. An hour later, we're still talking.
We got
every single time.
I only got 10 minutes. Now, I spoke to him on the phone a few times. It's very educational, and his videos are well made. I asked him if he wanted to do a show one time, but he never answered me. I even asked Ken Thiessen. Well, at least I got Rick Brown. That's something to be proud of.
I'm honored to be on the show, and I'm very glad you asked me to be. Anytime.
Anytime. Thank you very much. Anytime you want to promote something and you want to banter about fitness, we didn't get a chance to really bash people and smack them around, but it was good. It was a great show.
That's coming. Believe me, that's coming.
Okay. I didn't even talk about when you don't have mixed company and we're ready to hammer people. Let's talk about that thing about the ultra sensitivity of the modern man.
Absolutely.
Using the words that we use. Because it sickens me. Every time I watch TV, all these shows are all the way they are. And we'll talk about it.
Absolutely.
All right. Listen, Rick, I'll salute you with the shillelagh. Thank you for being a guest on our first official international Brotherhood of Pahlavans.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody out there.
Yes. Bye-bye.